Well, welcome, greatest audience on the planet. Been a while since I had got a chance to say that, but I am reaching out to all those great folks that followed me for years and years and still keep in touch with me and talk to me by email. And I am so happy to be back. I have a great producer, Amanda, many of you know, doing all the great work in the back. And we have been very fortunate to pick up an initial show first guest, a person I really, really have liked and had the chance to chat with, mainly just by texting type messages and our connection on a professional link. That he was very kind to take some time out of his busy day to talk with us. And I'm going to not waste any time. We can talk about how the show came together at a later date. I want to bring the guest on, Mr. Pete Koch, actor, football player, and life coach. But I say probably, I don't say life coach as much as kind of life guide. I love the stuff that you've been doing, Pete, for years. And I'm of the age that enjoys trying to do stuff in 15 minutes and getting better after 15 minutes in physical fitness. And it's been a real pleasure to talk to you and then getting ready for this show. So thank you so much, and welcome to On Eagle's Wings, and what I call the greatest audience on the planet.
I appreciate it. Good to be with you, Cobra.
So let's talk real quick. How does somebody get started to have the kind of life journey that you did? Movie actor, professional football player. Now you're doing, I think, absolute legion work in helping people get fit, stay fit, get that proper blend. I saw two things you put out this week that absolutely just knocked me out. One of them, you were talking about and I'm going to say it, and it's obvious on Eagle's Wings this has got to be part of the theme, a kind of a God-based understanding of where you are, taking care of your body, doing the right stuff in moderation, finding your spiritual kind of tap. I don't want to put any kind of words in your mouth, but you have to have a journey to get to that spot. How did it start?
That's quite an interesting question right out of the gate, but I do appreciate it. I think I arrived at it through living life and considering my life carefully as I've gotten older and gone through experiences. And I think also through taking adversity, one of the great many lessons that I learned, playing contact football for 20 years and 6 of it in the NFL and 4 of it before that at the Division I level, was constantly assessing where you stand, because that's the only place that you can kind of arrive at improvement. And it's a constant evaluation. You've got to be able to, the athletes not only that aspire to the highest level, not only need to be able to accept criticism, constructive criticism, properly done, of course. And that's that whole, pedagogical approach to coaching is a whole big topic I could talk for a long time about. Some very, very fine coaches out there and some very poor coaches, but you need to be able to evaluate yourself and then take an action, right? Then be proactive with the changes you need to make. And that may involve, hard work, suffering at times. And so once I got out of football, truth be told is when anybody's NFL career is over acutely, it's a very difficult time for 98%. There's the 2% that go straight to a big TV job. Like I love my former teammate with the, at that time, Los Angeles Raiders, Howie Long. And those are exceptions to the rule. For most of us, it's a very difficult time. And you think about what you want to do next, you evaluate. This is my last year in the league was 1989. This was before the big money, right? So guys had to go and think, what's my next job going to be? What's my next career going to be? And you begin to evaluate. And one of the things that I think I was gifted with playing football and I include the 4 years. I had a lot of good coaching at the college level at the University of Maryland. From a historical perspective, I came out of Maryland the same year as Boomer Esiason. We had a championship football team at the conference level at that time. And I learned a great many things that helped me later in life to evaluate, self-assess, not be afraid of that, but embrace that, and then plan my next moves. Or, and that may include again, hiring a coach or aligning myself with people that could help me on my journey. And that's exactly what brought me to really the next career, which I've sort of drifted in and out of, for 35 years now, but acting. And that's
Right.
because I had a mentor. I was in the right place at the right time. And I actually began that journey in the off season of playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, where I
Now,
spent
what was the
most.
kind of acting that you started out in? Because I read some interesting
Yeah,
things about, you know, I don't want to put words, but I would say kind of humbling.
yeah.
You're a star, but you want to do something else and you want to get another profession, so you kind of journeyman into it.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate. So I grew up on Long Island, New York, and my high school had a very good football program, but a very weak uh, weight room. And I was, truth be told, I was the only guy on the football team. I was the only kid in the entire school that decided that I wanted more than a funky, really poorly equipped weight room that we had it in the basement of the high school I went to. So I joined a bodybuilding gym. Years later, I donated a weight room to my high school.
That's
Um,
outstanding.
yeah, and I had a few bucks a few years later, and that felt good. But
Absolutely.
I joined the bodybuilding gym in the late '70s, and back then bodybuilding gyms were there was no such thing as athletic performance gyms. They were bodybuilding gyms. You developed your body, and this one was a converted small old fashioned a supermarket that had been converted into a combination bodybuilding gym and karate studio in Limbrook, Long Island, called Rab's Gym. And but I met some inspiring people. I was the youngest guy in the gym, and I was inspired by the people around me. Back then, there was no specialization about your weight training or your physical training to be a better football player. All there was, hey, pick up heavy stuff, put it down, repeat. Have a protein shake when you're done. Eating. In my case, I was always trying to add some weight because I was a skinny kid. Drink some weight gainer. I read
It
all the
amazes me
muscle
to hear you
guys.
say that you were a skinny kid, because I have never seen you in anything but in top form all
Yeah,
these years.
trust me, I was skinny, and I learned from the older guys, and then when I got to and that helped get me in position, right? Because that's all coaches do, by the way. It's a very important notion, and very important that people understand that coaches can't do anything for you, and it's not their job to do anything except one thing actually for you, and that's to position you for success, whatever that means. Your sport might be tennis,
Right.
might be golf, but that's what coaches do. And then you go and do the work, and maybe you've got some athletic gifts, some more than others, but you got to be a grinder. You got to work hard regardless of the sport. But good coaches put you in position for success. And that was what I had in high school, and that is what I learned from some of my bodybuilding brethren. I never did compete in bodybuilding, but I had a love of it because I acknowledged and I learned. The first time I started picking up weights when I was 14, in short order, I noticed that stuff worked.
Right.
If I stuck with it, it really works. And we
You
all
got
know,
positive affirming changes to what you could actually control, something that you know
yeah,
would measure. You
yeah.
could literally measure. Sure.
And if it's that measurable is a great word, for it. I mean, if at the beginning, the bar that you bench press at most commercial gyms, it's standardized around the world. That bar weighs 45 pounds, no matter where, and it's been 45 pounds for the last 100 years. And then you get stronger, and then you stack plates on the sides, and then and you work your way up the food chain. And when I started, that bar just about buried me. Just
Sure.
a 45-pound bar, this skinny kid trying to get that off my chest, and I needed a spotter to make sure I didn't hurt myself. And then the first time you ever put a 40 with the big wheels, the 45-pound plate on each side, and now you've got a total of 135 pounds. And the first time I was able to drive that off my chest was a landmark. And when you're 15 years old, these things are.
That's climbing Mount Everest. When you're 15, you just hit a mountaintop.
Yeah. So you can fast forward, take the story forward. When I got to Maryland, we had an outstanding strength and conditioning coach, and one of the heroes, in fact, I would say to this day, the greatest football player to ever come out of the University of Maryland. And the older folks, the folks a little bit older will remember, his name is Randy White, and he was a great defensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys, who not only won a Super Bowl, he's in the Hall of Fame. And Randy White was a great college football player, like it usually works that way, before he was a great NFL player. And they used to put a picture on the wall in the weight room of the guy that could bench press the most weight to that date, ever, right? Going all the way back, when they started, tracking this in the 60s. And there was a picture of Randy White, and it said, he bench pressed, I believe it was 445 pounds.
God.
And I was, holy cow. And then there was a picture of the guy that squatted the most, and a couple other power clean, a little bit more complex lift. And I said to myself, I want to be him. I want to be that guy. I want it. That's what it takes to be, because by then Randy was one of the greatest players. Here I am, a freshman in college. At that point, Randy White was in the middle of a Hall of Fame career. I never met the man, but he inspired me, and his picture was all over the place. So it was systematically, I thought, observe the people at the place that you are aspiring to get to. And one of the things I noticed that it took to get to be, maybe one of the things that's really important to make it to the NFL is to be really strong. And I can assure you that it is a very important thing. You don't necessarily have to be the strongest guy, but it's part of it. And that got me. The foundation was built in high school. The foundation was built in joining a bodybuilding gym and networking with bodybuilders and guys 10, 15 years older than me that were surprisingly and graceful enough to encourage me to be the best that I could be. And then when I got to college, I learned how to strength train and running technique and plyometric jumping and bounding drills, all the kind of stuff that makes you a better athlete. I got very excited about that. And that would foreshadow my later life, where I had and I continue to have a passion, not necessarily for sports specific training, but for general fitness, and just making anybody that'll listen to me help them to be the best, healthiest, strongest, fittest version of themselves.
Now I'm gonna interrupt real quick, because there's two things I want to catch, just in case somebody doesn't get all the way to the end of the show. Number one, I don't think you set out to be a coach, but you are a coach for folks like me. And I know there are, I'm going to say, hundreds of thousands of people that follow the stuff that you do. And it's, to me, an absolute gift that you could recognize, the criticality. Here you are, 14, 15 years old, right? You've got all these older guys. There's not a lot of pizzazz, because we grew up around the same age. We're not too far apart. There wasn't a lot of stylish gymnasium workout facilities. This is kind of garage kind of mechanics for the body. And you had the ability to tap into, obviously people see, that you got the spark, but you could appreciate it early on, and it's carried you to this point. And when we talk about the movie part of it, it now it reveals to me all the things that I really just, I'll say it, love about the acting you've done because you carry it through. So when you're in that mentor role, you can do that. That's what you're doing now. But when you're that mentoree, a lot of people don't realize you're picking up those critical life lessons. So, I mean, it's a great story, but the thing that we kind of brushed over was you jumped in because you knew, hey, I'm going to do this for so long and there's an end to it. And I want to be able to do the next thing. I don't know what that is, but I think I want to try this. And then you started doing the early learning the craft of being an actor. So I think it's a tremendous approach that you were able to hew, and hats off to you for being able to work it out.
Well, I appreciate that. I knew as a skinny kid, very fortunate to have an excellent head football coach at the high school I went to. His name is John Kalo, and he's 80. I think he's 81 years old. He's still alive, and
Wow.
we stay in touch, and he's still very fit. He had played his college ball at Kansas State University. And when I went to a combined junior senior high, so I was like playing on the freshman football team in 8th grade. And he pulls me aside one day, and I thought he was a gym teacher, and he also taught driver ed. He taught me how to drive. That's how they used to do things back then. And my high school was known far and wide on Long Island as one of the toughest football teams you might ever play. And he pulled me aside and he said, I got my eye on you. I know you're going to be on the JV next year, and then I want you to come right up to the varsity as a 10th grader. But here's what I see, Pete. And I really barely knew the man, and so what? I'm 13 years old at the time, and he says, you've got these things that we cannot teach. You've got height. You've got speed, natural quickness. I see it when you play, because I also played baseball and basketball.
Sure.
And he said, and you're not afraid of contact. And that's a big, big thing. Football isn't made for everybody. You've got to be able to embrace the physicality and the contact of it. You have those. I can't teach your height. You've got it. Here's what you don't have. You don't have strength. You don't have power. That we can fix in the weight room. And he said, I need you in the weight room, and I'm going to help you, and we're going to figure this thing out. And it started there, and under his mentorship. And I wasn't the only guy, but he was mentoring all of us. And again, probably the only thing that I did different than my peers was when I got into 11th grade, I joined the bodybuilding gym because I wanted more. I didn't even have a car. I had a bum a ride. I had a best friend that had a car. I asked my mother to take me to the gym. We didn't have a car in high school. So I made it work.
All right. So your teams, Cincinnati, correct? The Bengals?
Yeah. I was drafted by
the Chiefs.
I spent most of my career 4 seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah.
And then the Raiders.
The Raiders bounced around, and they went from Oakland to Los Angeles for 13 years, back to Oakland, then to of course, the last 5 years they've been in Las Vegas, and I played for the Los Angeles Raiders. And just to give a historical perspective, that's where I finished my career. I was really bitten by the injury bug, and I had a number of surgeries and missed almost 2 seasons recovering from a couple of surgeries in Kansas City, and I was let go. And I was claimed as a free agent by Al Davis, who asked me to come and meet with him in the off season. I was living in Los Angeles because I was making movies and commercials.
Right.
And that was like my side hustle. But of course, my main passion, and I was always working out, getting better at football and going to Gold's Gym, the mecca of bodybuilding. I found it there in Venice, California. And then I got this call because I didn't know my next move. It was very uncertain. It was I was talking to my agent from time to time. Very few teams in the NFL want to take a chance on a guy that's just come off a bunch of surgeries and hasn't played much in 2 years. I had a little interest from the Seattle Seahawks, and then I got a call from Al Davis, and he said, and by the way, from Gold's Gym to where the Raiders practice facility was while they were in Los Angeles was only a 10-minute drive. So I had a meeting with him, and he says, "You got anything left in the tank, Pete? Because I like the way you play. I've been watching you, and I know, because we're division rivals. I see you all these years. I was a starting defensive end in Kansas City before I got hurt.
Right.
And but what's going on with you? You got anything left? Because here's what I need. Here's what I need at this point in your career. I got 2 defensive ends right now that can really, really play, and one of them is the best there, maybe the best there ever is, named Howie Long." I said, "Yeah, I know that guy," and he goes, "But Howie needs a backup. I need a backup for Howie Long, and that's what I would be looking for from you." And I said, "I'm your man. I'm your man, because all I want," I said, "just get me into training camp,
right.
And then it's on me." Right. Without a training camp, without an opportunity, nobody can do anything. And he said, "Let's do it. Let's shake hands." We drew up a contract in the same meeting. Didn't even call my agent.
Does stuff happen like that anymore? Do you think?
Never. No, that would never happen anymore. Then I had a kind of a weird phone call with my agent. I'm like,
what did you do? Right?
What did you do without? Why didn't you call me? Why didn't you notify me? And I didn't have a great relationship with my agent. That's always going to be a possibility. There's a lot of rocky relationships between players and agents. Mine wasn't great, but it didn't matter. The contract was actually extremely fair, and it was where I finished my career, and it was a great blessing. And Coach Al Davis, a special human being, just being exposed to him and the culture, just understand. Cobra, I think like you could understand, because I believe you've served or worked with different branches of the military. So, and each one has, and even you could probably go on sub levels or subcategorize the different cultures involved between flying a jet, flying a helicopter. I can imagine would be a very different thing.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing anything that dramatic to the fact, but
I'm just as fascinated by what you have done in your professions that I can't even begin to think about it.
But the culture.
I sat on my tushy for a lot of what I did.
But the culture with the Cincinnati Bengals was what it was,
right?
And then I was with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the culture was what it was, and it was bigger. They were putting more money into the facility. There was more of a sense of support, from the ownership when I got there. It happened, and I was happily surprised to know that, because every guy in the NFL is playing over here. He's wondering what their locker room looks like, what their weight room looks like, what their training staff is like. And then I ended up with the Raiders, and I saw again another very different culture. Just for historical perspective, when I was with the Chiefs, in 4 seasons I was there, if you summed it up, we had a losing record. Went to 1 playoff game in 4 years, and people forget, before this guy named Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs struggled. They'd had a little success with Marty Schottenheimer before that, and Tony Gonzalez, one of the greatest tight ends ever. So they had some success, but not much. And so it wasn't. It makes the workplace is listen. It's always more fun when you win. And then I got to the Raiders, and the 1 season I was there, we were 8-8. Go figure. Didn't make the playoffs. But I met. I'm comfortable saying that I learned more about culture and about. I learned more from Al Davis. Just let me explain. Very unique in ownership is the owner. Look, there's plenty of owners. Some owners never don't bother to watch practice.
Right.
And then you
They're not directly involved.
They're not at all. Right. Correct. And then some watch practice, but truth be told, they don't know what the hell they're looking at. Right. Except that you pay, they're like paychecks.
The appeal of honesty in your voice there is what cracked me up, because I say that at work all the time now. They don't even know what they're looking at.
Yeah. And then you've got Al Davis, and I don't know how many people really know this. And it's funny because it's funny. You don't know how good you had it until you don't have
right.
it.
Absolutely.
And I remember 2-3 years after I was out of the game, reflecting on Al Davis, and and I played for extraordinary owners. The guy that founded the Cincinnati Bengals, named Brown. The Brown family still owns the Bengals. Paul Brown was an impressive man, but he didn't talk to the players. He was kind of a strange guy, very quiet, but he knew a lot about football. And then the guy that owned Lamar Hunt, the father of the guy that owns, it's the Hunt family that have owned the Chiefs from the beginning. That's not a football family. That's not a family of athletes. That's a family of wealth. And then there's Al Davis, who came from no wealth,
right,
and played college football, coached college football, and did everything the hard way, learned his way on the way up. A lot of people don't even know, but Al Davis was actually at one point in the 60s the head coach of the Oakland Raiders, before he stepped down from that position to become the commissioner of the AFL. He was responsible for creating the merger between the two leagues, without going into all the history. And then he came back the team had, I think, 3 owners. It was like a dentist, a lawyer, and a businessman that owned the Raiders. Nobody knew. None of them ever played football, but they knew that they had this one guy named Coach Al Davis that could create a championship.
He knew how to inspire people
and
put them in the right spot
and create a championship organization. And he negotiated a fantastic deal where he became the managing general partner and owned most of the team for a dentist and a lawyer and another guy, right? It's kind of it would never happen like that again, but it was quite interesting. But Al Davis was a certifiable genius. If it wasn't football, if he had just decided to get into, I don't know, just this construction development of skyscrapers, or start a company that's going to make some kind of electric bulldozers or whatever you could possibly think of, he would have been great at it, because he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so he would come and he was also socially extremely skilled. And so when he would, there would be that opportunity to be that smart, know that much about football, and to be on the sideline and see things going a little bit, see players making mistakes, or even coaches making mistakes. And it would be almost easy to just insert yourself and create a little bit of drama by getting everybody on the same sheet of music. But he didn't do that. He handled everybody very deftly. One thing I'll say about when it comes to coaching, a lot of people who've never been properly coached thinks that a coaching style, an authoritarian style, is the only style, and that's the way every kid or young kid or gal or grown up or pro should be coached. It's exactly wrong. There's a great deal of nuance to coaching, and that involves understanding the personality type that you're dealing with. There's some athletes, you get on their tail and you get in their face and they respond and they get better. There's other people, you just buried them. The other people, you just have a mild approach and some comforting word, and just telling them, believe in yourself, and they go like a rocket ship and they get better. You have to understand who you're dealing with. This is a very, very important notion that is widely unknown That's
Well, I
most
think
people.
I think football is a great laboratory because I think that applies across the board in almost every human endeavor they talk about. So I have four things because you just so many things trigger off. Number one, you use the word blessed, and to me that means everything when someone says that because they know the value of you were given opportunities and you worked hard and you made them work, and that is a blessing, and that is probably the most important one. It's easy to be given something. It's another one you were given a chance and you're able to, and you have people that guide you to go on to that great stuff. And you've done that for other people. So, like I said, you've transitioned. In the late 90s, I can't remember which year, I was flying off icebreakers for the Coast Guard down to Antarctica. And my senior NCO, and it's going to come up later on, chief that I had, was a huge Kansas City fan. And I believe they were going to the Super Bowl that year in the late 90s. Well, he had a giant flag, and he and I climbed a large rock hill mountain that overlooked this place called McMurdo Station on the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica and carried that flag up there. And I helped him, and he unfurled that flag on the day of the Super Bowl down on the bottom of the earth. So I want you to know, I don't know any other football team that had their flag. I'm sure that's been down there, but that particular year, you brought that memory back.
And you've got a photograph of this, right?
I don't believe I have a photograph of that going.
That would
I'm
be
sure
so
there's one out there
great.
because this is long before cell phones. I am sure that
Yeah.
there's something out there that's there. But
I would, Cobra, I would personally help you get that photograph to the Chiefs, which would be just a gem.
I'll have to look around and see if I can find. I'll have to work on it to come up with it. But it was he was, you know, I told you before we got together, I don't follow football very much. I don't really follow sports. I love bull riding and I love rodeo. And I was, very much into martial arts. That's kind of the areas that I went. But I love the culture of football. And I have so many rabid football former players, college players, lots of high school people that, and then just follow the game. Now, you talk about the Raiders, and I talk about your arc of that you went on there. Now, here's a guy who knows nothing about the teams, but I do remember Patriots going against the Raiders. Okay, the Raiders rep in New England was tough team, and it was said not that it was tough in a way. It was said with respect, but it was said because the toughness was the cohesion of the Raiders. The Raiders had a rep that no one's ego swelled too far off the line of anybody else. If you picked on one, you were getting all of them.
Yeah.
And that had a respect. And now I'm hearing what you're saying to me, how, obviously the Lord kind of, I'm going to say that, and I don't say that as offhanded as it may sound, but it seems like you went the perfect arc to end up with the Raiders, to have that kind of a meeting, to have that as the cap of what you did, because it, I think, gets you set up, propelled to all the other stuff that you're doing and you're going to do. When you look at that,
I think you nailed it. I think it was. I've thought of this often. Virtually any NFL, any player, retired NFL player that you'll talk to, will give you, has some place churning around in his brain. If I just could have caught a break here or there, if that one time, when I blew my knee out and cost me, and I was just hitting my stride, and then I got traded or cut, and if how I am able to squash all that noise in my head because I finished with the Raiders and because they have the most extraordinary alumni organization of any of the 32 teams in the NFL. And just very, very quickly,
take all the time you want.
You have 32 individual organizations in the NFL, as most people understand. 31 of them are owned by a single individual or a family, or sometimes a very small unit. Only the Green Bay Packers are owned by the city of Green Bay. And that'll never happen again, and it's never going to be. going to be bought by anybody. So you have that, and then you can do within the rules. You're going to field a team, and there's all these rules. But what you're going to do from cultural standpoint is, how do you want to treat your alumni? Because everyone has a history. Some teams are older than others, right? Like the New York Giants, or an original, like very, very old, the Chicago Bears, the Packers. They're very old organizations compared to the Tennessee Titans, which are a newer organization, right?
Right.
Much younger. But everybody's got a roster, and you can look it up, and there's archives in it, and everything is very, very detailed. It's actually a legal thing. If you ever played in one NFL game, you are considered an NFL player, and you will earn some benefits. That doesn't make you vested. Vested is you have to play for a longer period of time, but it's a real thing. And I can tell you, speaking for myself, that the first two teams I played for, the Bengals and the Chiefs, have the Bengals have no alumni organization whatsoever, and the Chiefs have a very small, relegated. You must live in Kansas City to be a part of it. You had to play for X number of seasons. And it's just a small group of guys. They call them the Chiefs ambassadors. And I have many friends that I played with that are ambassadors, and it's good. And they do some work for charity, and it's a good thing. But it's a really, really tiny group. The Raiders organization, Mark Davis, the son, Al Davis, God rest his soul, the great coach and genius, had one son, had one child. That's Mark Davis. He's a little bit older than me, and he's the owner, and has been since his father died about 10 years ago now. And Mark's a good man. I don't know him well, but he's a good man. And one of the things he did shortly after his father died was he got with some of the department heads, and he says, we have this roster of alumni, and we got so many great guys that he kind of grew up with the guys, right? He used to hang around, and he was a ball boy, and he was hanging. And he goes, "These guys, what are they doing? Like, what? How come we're not connecting with them? I want to create an alumni organization, and I don't want it to be half-assed. I want it. Find out what other teams are doing out there." He assigned a former Raiders player who's deceased now, but a former Raiders player that was a person that became a long time, for 25 years, he was a personal assistant to Al Davis. And when Al Davis died, he assigned this guy to go and do research and find out and begin. And this was 9 years ago, and they created what is today the best, most organized, most phenomenal, really. And I'm going to show you something really quick, because it's right behind me is this thing. It actually weighs about 30, believe it or not, this thing weighs 30 pounds. This is a brick. This is a brick, and every alumni gets a brick.
Beautiful.
Believe it, this actually weighs about 25 pounds. It's that thick. And this is mine. This was sent to me. Probably cost $200 to send it. And when you go to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas and see a game, there's a section where people walk into the stadium, and my brick is there for life. And so is Howie Long. And so is Bo Jackson. And whether you went to the Hall of Fame or just on that team for one season, once a Raider, always a Raider. And I don't even have that additional plaque. I was going to show you another plaque, but this was given to me and to this was a gift to us about 4 years ago. Not a small gesture.
No.
By Mark Davis. No other team in the NFL is done anything nearly as generous, and it just means so much to me.
Well, it means to you because that's the kind of ethos that the team was built on. I mean, you guys bonded and on that. Now, the next part is what a gesture that it's carved in stone. I mean, people don't do that anymore. Now we have, emojis and we have, non-fungible tokens kind of stuff that we say that's value, right? But I mean, that's a testament to what you did. You're a defensive guy. I don't know the sport well, but I mean the allusion to what you had to do on that team is represented by that stone. I mean, and now it's up there and it's there forever. And you tapped something earlier in the military now. The success formula and it took a while before the term came out. It's called servant leadership, and the general officers. The admirals that really know their people know that they're there to serve their people, not to be served. And that extends down every level. And what you described will hit with anybody who's been in the military, who's been around true servant leadership, because that's what you do now. That's what you were taught. And that's where you responded and had the best connection and the best efforts and the longest serving memories. And I remember getting ready to go on my very first long ship cruise in the military. And a good friend, former CEO, came up and he says, it's going to be tough and you're going to miss family. You're going to miss a lot of stuff. He says, but I guarantee in 10 years, in 20 years, if you live that long, you'll look back at those voyages and you'll go, oh my God, we had it so good. It was tough, but we were all bound together. It was, you can't screw up on a ship. You screw up on a ship, it sinks. Well, same thing. You can't screw up on a team or you lose. And losing is not what it's about. Winning is what it's about. I'm not saying you have to win every game, but you have to go to every game to win. And I'm sure you had your days. I've had mine where I didn't go out. I didn't suit up to win. I suited up because I had to suit up because that's what was on the schedule. Yeah. And those are the worst days that I probably have had.
Yeah.
When you don't do that.
I appreciate Cobra so much. You put into words. I'm sure it was rolling around in my brain ever since I got my brick. But the fact that I don't know what the hell this material is. It's so incredibly heavy. But they could have put it. They could have put it on the wall of the stadium in plastic. Right. Or
it would have been beautiful and all of it.
It's shiny aluminum siding kind of thing. Right. But they didn't. They chose this material, the permanence of it, like Mount Rushmore.
And it's going to withstand the wind. Yeah. It's going to withstand the rain. It's going to withstand the sun. It doesn't fade. It may age. It may show signs of age. But, I mean, that's what you learned. That's what you experienced playing football at that team. Yeah. And again, I know nothing about it. I can score it. I mean, Pete, my thing, I used to throw the Super Bowl parties. And I would be in the kitchen cooking with most of the wives and the girlfriends. I mean, that's the guy I was. Okay. I enjoyed the whole pantheon of everything that's going on. I mean, we still do the military flyovers, which I grade and rate, and I think they're pretty awesome when they do it. All right. Oh yeah. I don't want. I want
a wonderful tradition that connects us.
It is because it ties together what sports and what doing those kinds of physical activities, because it is a form of entertainment, but it's a form of entertainment that links back to ancient cultures. I mean, people don't always realize that, and that is the key part when you have sports, why people do that, because most people played the sport at some point or just enjoyed watching it because it represents their region, their team, their town, whatever it is, their high school, their alma mater. Yeah. And it's crossover to the military experience is very obvious. And that's what now you did 4 films, and I can't let this go because tonight I have to cover this. You did Conspiracy Theory, Loverboy, which still cracks me up that you're in Loverboy.
That's good. It's still funny.
It is still funny because
it holds
I
up.
mean, I'm talking to a man who's worked with two of the actors that I love on this planet. Burt Reynolds was one, and he totally underrated movie. Few things get me PO'd as much as that movie doesn't carry a lot. Burt Reynolds never got the kind of heft on a lot of the movies he did. And
just to be clear, because there's two movies out there named Heat, and one of them is really famous. And
it's big blockbuster, super duper. Yep.
Al Pacino but 12 years prior to that, Heat was another movie called Heat, which was Burt Reynolds had this. I mean, he was the biggest. He's the only movie star to be the top grossing movie star for 6 years in a row. Only star to ever do that. And that was the Cannonball Run movies.
Right.
And then it started to wane a little bit. That was like late 70s, early 80s, and then it started to wane. And then he made this movie Heat, which kind of came and went. And that's the movie Heat that I'm in.
Right. Great movie, though. But I absolutely love the movie.
Burt was great. Yeah. And also a legit running back at Florida State.
Yeah. And again, an interesting parallel, right? Another football player that's in there. And then as we were talking, as we were warming up for the show a little bit, Heartbreak Ridge. Now, I think most people, there you are. This is, in fact, when you meet the gunnery sergeant for the first time.
It is.
I'm laughing at the scene because no cast, as I told you as we were preparing for the show, no cast could have pulled off that movie to have such a good military movie. Some of the writing, some of the characters of it were so over the top. The bumbling young officer, the inept commanding officer. But the focus of the fact that the sergeants, that the NCOs had their stuff together, that they could do that it's recognized by a general, by a flag officer who realizes, how this is going. Also, I think it reflected the times. I'm going to say, in defense of my Marines, I never saw a Marine unit ever as messed up as that one is. That was a little bit, fruity how they put that together. But the message that's there is over the top good. And I can't imagine any other group of guys that could have got together, and gals, because you had some fantastic late in their career actresses that were in there that just brought home in such short, sharp scenes, just hammered it through on that. But there's a scene when that picture where you end up at the end of Mr. Eastwood's good moves, and you said, "Okay, sir, I'm ready to to go back to the stockade." And he goes, "Son, get up. You're going to start learning how to be a Marine." And I'm telling you, I mean, I'm getting a little teary because that's the kind of bond that means everything in a military unit, everything in a football team, everything in an office. If you're working in an office, just trying to get reports out that, mean financial success or failure. Yeah. That's all there. That movie, so great. Tell me a little bit about your experience with that movie and with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. I just happen to have this shirt on.
I know. I love the shirt.
And this scene was taken by the set. Yeah, we were rehearsing the brief fight scene.
Right.
That entrance, right? So the camera's low, and it pans.
You're a mountain of a guy to begin with, but I mean, they got the angle to really accentuate that.
Exactly right. And by the way,
you're not next to two small guys.
Not small. To the right side on the screen, on my left arm is Mario Van Peebles, a very successful, not only actor, but writer and director.
Yeah.
And it was his idea. He said, because we rehearsed it, and the camera was, I'm pretty tall, I'm 6'6", and the camera was cranked way up high
Yep.
to shoot me like at eye level when I walk in. And we rehearsed it. And Mario says, excuse me, Clint, and this really, movies are rarely this collaborative, especially when you're not a
Yeah.
star or anything.
Right.
But Mario says, Clint, can I just make a mention or a note? Yeah. What do you got? And he says, if when Swede comes in, if you had the camera low, and then the camera, it starts to look up. Holy cow, what's happening? He goes, I think that would be a really cool entrance for our big guy, Mr. Swede here. And Clint goes, that's a good idea. And that's what they did. And I think it makes the scene as much as anything. And it shows you that's the collaboration. That's like a football team that's collaborating on, let's make this play. Let's change one of the guys, the route they're going to run down the field, because it'll make this a better play. And so I was thankful, and I appreciate that part of the story. And Clint was open to that. The scene, was a very, very hot day. The movie, we're supposed to be at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. We weren't. We were at Camp Pendleton. So just to
East
matter
Coast
of
Marines
convenience
being
and
portrayed in the West Coast. It's a tragedy.
Yeah. So, but it was literally a record hot August day, and those Quonset huts don't have air conditioning. I don't know how people live in those things. It was brutal. But there we were, sweating our.
You know what's up, you bet.
Yeah. And then and we put that scene together and we rehearsed. This is a set photographer took this of the rehearsal, because it just doesn't, hey, dude, but you don't just go, you got to rehearse this stuff to make it right and get the lighting and get the camera in the right place. So it's not a terribly complicated scene. I'm not trying to say that, but when I found this picture online, I just made some shirts, and if anybody's interested, they could DM me, and I don't know what I did. I got a bag of them. I was supposed to go and sign for a bunch of people, but an event fell through. But I thought that this was an interesting scene, because an interesting picture, because as an actor, I've actually been in about 25 movies and about another 25 TV shows and about probably 30 national commercials, and altogether over a long career. But and the final product is always so fun to see. But this the dirty work. Everybody enjoys watching the NFL on Sundays, but they don't see how the sausage
all the work on the field and in the gym, and icing down and heating up because you got the swells and everything else that's going on.
Yeah, and movie making is just as challenging, and just as like rehearsal, set, light, move the light, camera, hair and makeup, come in, put some powder. Everybody's sweating like crazy. Get over there to Swede and mop his face and put some powder on the guy, for God's sake. And let's shoot this thing and make it fast so that it's 104 degrees. Like, we can get out of here and move on to the next thing. And that's the fun of it. That's why I had a shirt like this made, and I love sharing those stories. And the final
expressions on both of your faces in that picture that's on the shirt. Yeah. The expressions on both of your faces. There's that really Clint Eastwood kind of wry grin. You don't see that obviously in most of the movies, because it's something that you would have to see like in an interview or when he's just when he's talking. And you have that. To me, you have that almost school athlete kind of. Yeah. You're studying that because you don't want to get it wrong. You're getting ready to do the play. I mean, you've had this picture up a couple times before, and you had some really cool words to talk about that. But it really captures. And look in the background who's smiling.
Yeah, Mario Van Peebles.
And he's smiling
He,
because he knows it's happening. You
he
can,
co-directed the scene, really,
yeah,
along
but
with
I'm saying
Clint.
he knows it's happening. He knows that it's all coming together. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
really classic, good part, and that's why I tell you, it's why I think the movie is one of the better, best category kind of military movies. If you can peel away some of the, the over the top kind of stuff that didn't really quite fit the Marines, and but I think it does honor their most important principles. Anything else about the movie? Did you
What?
guys have good support from the Department of Defense on that movie?
Well, the movie was the script was written, and the executive producer, the boss of that movie, took it to Pentagon to get the blessing
Right.
of, went to the Pentagon to get the blessing. The movie was written about the Army,
Right.
and it was rejected by the Army for foul language and something. And the way the story goes is the producer called Clinton, says they thought it was a slam dunk, that Clint Eastwood movie. Yeah, the Army's gonna go. Yeah, it's gonna be great, and they turned it down. And Clint goes, how far? How long would it take you to walk over to the Marine Corps and find somebody to talk to over there? Like, who handles that? Who makes these same decisions over at the Marine Corps? Get him up, get a meeting with him. Or they set that up at Warner Brothers. And while this guy was still in DC, and that meeting happened quickly, and they quickly said, we're all in. You got our support. And it's been said many times to me, and I've received, Cobra, it would be impossible to calculate the tens and probably hundreds of thousands. This is over the span of 35 years with social media and across all platforms. The tens and thousands of people saying, you're the reason I joined the Marine Corps. Like, I was going to pull the trigger on the Army, or I was, considering the Air Force, but then I remembered Swede. My dad showed me Heartbreak Ridge, some version of that story. And Cobra, I have to tell you, I have mixed feelings on that, because
sure, I know you're going to go.
I'm flattered by it, but I'm also, it's not like they said, I decided to be a teller at Bank of America because of you.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be a very safe choice, a very safe career choice. Okay. It's not a safe career choice to join the military.
Right.
And I feel responsible to that. And the other fun part is, but God bless it, all the servicemen and people, and it's made a connection. It's created a connection between me Absolutely. And the military, the Marine Corps in particular, recon in particular.
Oh my God, yeah! I had a recon gunny that worked for me in Iraq. Unbelievable.
That I never could have dreamed of. So I'm flattered, and have been and continue to be, by that, and it's connected me, and it also created kind of a shift. I'm proud to report that my father fought in World War II. He was in Europe in the Army infantry for 18 months. So, which if my father were alive, he'd be 104. How about that? I'm 64. I've got a brother who's 77, right? So I'm the youngest one, because there's not so many people. There's less and less people I can say my dad fought in World War II.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So, so it really, that made me proud to know that my father was deceased by the time Heartbreak Ridge came out, but it's something, and I'm always clear. I want to be always clear to people that I never did serve. If I could go back in a time machine, I would like to figure out a way that maybe I could have served in some way. Maybe that would have. I can imagine many scenarios how it might have enhanced my career after football, right. But it didn't go that way for me. but I am eternally grateful for all the good and great service people that we have in this country.
I find it absolutely humbling and touching, your sense of responsibility and connection with everybody who walks up to you and said, "Well, you're the reason I did this." And I can think of a couple other actors over the years who said that. I also want to note, I just recently read that Clint Eastwood almost lost his life when he was in the Army. He was stationed in California at the time, but he had a family emergency up in Washington State, and he got in the back of an airplane called the Skyraider with the Navy, and they lost their engine, and they had to make a ditched landing along the coast. And when they got out of the plane, and the pilot did an extraordinary job, they got separated in the water, and he made it to the beach, and the pilot made it to the beach, and Clint Eastwood, exhausted from, he was in the water for quite a while, cold water, the whole thing. He got to either a ranger station or somebody along the beach there that was in authority, and they got everybody together, and he came back. I had no idea that he had that close call and brush, but I think the fact that I get to talk to you and you work with Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds absolutely makes my. I'm going to take that couple of degree separation hit of joy knowing that, because I think they were tremendous guys, and Clint Eastwood, and this is a good segue to this last part that I want to talk to you about. You have become an incredible coach and mentor for a lot of people, and I've said that at the beginning of the show. For people like myself, a lot of young folks that follow you, when you went through your surgeries, you were right up front, blunt. I mean, showing what was going on, and that the pain and the work to get back, and the drive to get back. And quite honestly, when I see somebody like that, it's like when I see someone who's has a setback, has a handicap of some kind, and they're getting up every day, going to work, doing their stuff, and I'm going to complain about this? You got to be kidding me! What the heck is wrong with me? I have everything going, and you recognize your blessings and you share that. So you are a big, and one of the other things I really just love about you, and I say that, is that you were with RFK Jr. for a long time, and you have been a big proponent of the stuff that he does to make people healthier and wiser and more in control of what's going on.
Yep.
And talk a little bit about where you find yourself now, the stuff that you're doing, and the kind of activities that you are looking at doing in the near future, because I think a lot of folks need to follow you.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, and to start with Bobby Kennedy, what a great gift it was when my dearest friend, Andrea Serra, just a wonderful woman and a very, very talented and successful person of fitness and a professional personal trainer here in Los Angeles. And she had met Bobby, not so surprisingly, 12 years ago at a gym in Malibu. And at that time, Bobby lived in Malibu. He later moved to a different part of town, and that's where I got to know him through Andrea, my friend Andrea, at Gold's Gym. You meet this guy at the gym. I mean, I remember when he was running for president, and Biden was denying him Secret Service protection, which I thought was just
ridiculous, just ridiculous,
just very mean spirited. But I thought, honestly, this is the easiest guy in the world. I mean, he's an easy guy to find. Like go where the gym is, because he leads from the front. He's very fit. He is fit. He walks the walk, and in fact, I was a little text conversation with him just a couple of weeks ago. He had a question because he's rehabbing an injury that he knew that I had gone through, and that's fun. That's fun that he can think of me. I text him on something, and he came back with a fitness question. He is the most probably the most curious person I've ever met. He's sincerely curious about you can't you know, when I've seen him interact with all kinds of different people, many people he's met for the first time. And once he finds out what they did, it could be anything, you know, it could be a guy that knows a lot about strength training and conditioning like me, or it could be somebody in a completely different field. That picture that you just showed was a day that we all hiked together in the Santa Monica Mountains. And one of the guys that isn't in the picture, but was part of our small group that was hiking that morning, was a computer scientist who owns a gigantic tech company, and he's young guy, he's in his 30s, and he's talking to me about a workout strategy that he's thinking about changing his workouts a little bit, and then he swaps conversations over to this guy, and he's asking him about something to do with computer science and technology and where the next moves are going to be, blah, blah. I mean, this man's mind is so agile, and he's so curious, and he's so polite. He's such a pleasure to be around. So I was very excited to support him when he was running for president. And then when it became evident that, it wasn't going to go his way at this time because,
the forces lined up against him. He wasn't going to get a fair shot. That's just how simple that is.
That's well stated. And then he aligned himself, I thought, correctly, with the Trump and their people. And then he became obviously an asset.
He's a force of nature. I say that sincerely. I mean, the stuff that he is working on is going to have long-term effects. And it takes someone that dedicated and it's easy to me now that I've got to really know and talk with you, how you two would sync up really quick. I mean, it's obvious to me because he's after what's right. He's after what's going there. And if we do not figure out how to get ourselves healthy, if we don't figure out how to get ourselves to a point where we're responsible for it, we're never going to get out of this doom loop that we're in. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
I don't care about the politics of it. Politics has ruined way too much of everything we do. It's infected, but it is part of the landscape that we have to deal with. So once you realize that, get down to the nut.
Sure. I like that. It's well stated. I met him right about the time that he released the book, and he writes a book about every 18 months. He's prolific. But he wrote The Real Anthony Fauci, which of course I read, and he makes so many powerful cases, but one that's been said that I think is an important, at least something to verbalize, and just from my position as a fitness and I think a health professional, because you can't have optimum health without fitness, but I don't claim anything. As far as I do have a formal background in chemistry and biology, physiology and anatomy, but not medicine. And but what we learned, one of the many lessons that we learned during this pandemic mess that went on for way too long, was that your average American is woefully undereducated in the very, very basics of biology and in the way the human body works. And this became quite.
You don't make sound decisions if you don't have that. You can't make sound decisions.
Correct. And I'm not even talking about having the capability to read the studies in the medical literature. Right. That's another level. That's why I went back to school, so I could read the literature. There's the best way to go about developing your spinal erectors, right? Or if you have one shoulder that's weak, and the best way to go about this, the best exercise choices that you can make, how many repetitions should you do, how much the recovery. The answers to these questions, stepping a little bit into the lane of like a physical therapist, but that's what good trainers do. But
Right.
All of this stuff is studied, right? And you study a population of people have had a hamstring injury or have some kind of a disease of their spine, but they, like I've got an orthopedic surgeon friend who talks. He's very, very fit. He talks about the importance of strength training all the time to his clients, and then he very often assigns them a personal trainer because they don't know what a single thing to do. And he says, once you get stronger, you'll get better. And getting you stronger very often is the simplest and most effective way to get somebody out of pain, where they think it's a pill, it's actually exercise. This is very commonly the case. And when we went through this pandemic, we learned that it hit a lot of us like a ton of bricks, that there's something wrong with our educational system where people cannot even comprehend the very, very basics of nutrition, and the idea that vitamin D can have a huge impact. I'm not even getting down into the weeds.
Right.
Vitamin D was misnamed 50 years ago. It's actually a hormone. And if you said hormone D,
right,
people would lean in more and go, well, hold it a second. Hormones, I know hormones are important. But a vitamin, what's a vitamin? Vitamin C, who cares, right? But it's incredibly important.
So, if I remember correctly, about 6 years ago, RFK Jr. put out something on vitamin D. I can't remember exactly what it was, and I read a lot because I don't follow football. That's a joke. Wisconsin.
I would have a lot more time to read if I didn't watch so much football, including college.
So I noticed as soon as I made sure that the vitamin D level came up, which my doctor now checks, they never checked it. It was never checked before. I had blood tests every year, flight physicals. It was never brought up about what your vitamin levels were. But, in this last 10 years, I came, we talked about it. But all of a sudden, because I live in the northern
quick question though, Cole, your care has come largely from flight surgeons for decades, right?
Well, two ways. When I was in the military, yes, that was the primary way to do it. When I retired from the military, I have to still see a civilian doctor that's a flight surgeon, qualified to keep me.
So I didn't know that was a thing.
And then I have a general GP, because both complement each other, both kind of check back and forth. But that you have to kind of shop around for that. You have to tell people about what's going on that, and you got to well, I just noticed that after reading about the vitamin D and realizing, well, that makes sense. And I'm not seeing as much sun because I live in a northern climate up here, and it's all of a sudden a lot of stuff just wasn't bothering me like it did when that vitamin level came up, that hormone level came up. Things that were ticking me off weren't ticking me off as much. Now, of course, anybody in my office that sees this show is going to go, well, you need to take another bottle of vitamin D before you come in next week. But, that kind of stuff. Now, I'm sure back in the day, my grandparents, my parents, they ate foods that they were getting this. What do we complain about? We're always talking about all the crap that we've processed out of this, and we've made the food stable, but we've not made it nutritious, and it's not feeding our bodies, and we're not doing what we're supposed to, and we're taking a great gift, and we're not taking advantage of keeping it running in good order. We go on for hours. I can't have this show end without talking about Sophie, and I believe you sent Amanda, our producer, a video clip. Talk a little bit about Sophie, because if there was anything that was the perfect finisher to you and I to being friends, it's when you started talking about this little lady.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's the love of my life. That's Sophie, my rescue. She's a 96-pound black lab mix, but obviously 96-pound female. Most female labs, I think, are more like 56.
Yeah, I was going to say you're in the 50, 60 range for
50,
most.
60. Yeah. So she's a big one. And this whole rescue dog thing is it's a very bit I find that it's a bit of interesting verbiage because who
Who
exactly
rescues who?
rescued
Say it, Pete. Who rescues who?
so Cobra, you feel it. So
Absolutely.
you finished my sentence. So
Sorry, didn't mean to do it.
I know we're brothers on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, I live on a farm full of them, of all kinds of critters that needed a place to go, and thank God I found a gal that wanted to do that, and we have
Yeah.
the means to do it. So I get it.
Let me take the second to just brag a little bit. Let me name drop. I'll only do it this once, but I've had the great good fortune to be the personal trainer for a very special person who happens to be an actor named Benicio del Toro, and he was recently nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
Warren.
Yeah, he's he's a dog lover. He's a big dog lover, and I mean a big dog. And he's got, I think it's okay. He's so private, and I have so much respect for his privacy. But he has a big dog. It's well over 100 pounds, and I've known him for 16 years now, and we've talked about this. And he loves Sophie, and I take Sophie on hikes. We hike together. And he's been a great.
I think we have a picture of you and Mr. Del Toro in the pile.
And I had a dog that passed before Sophie, a brown German Shepherd mix, and Benicio that was Maddie, and they were all great friends. And I asked Benicio, who grew up in Puerto Rico, I said, "How is it you are a real dog lover? And what's your, I don't know, what's your story?" And he said, "My father had a piece of property. He goes, we grew up in kind of a regular house, and then when he's got one brother, he goes, when my brother and I went off to college in the mainland, my father had remarried, and he bought a piece of property with a number of acres on it. And he started to populate this land with dogs he was rescuing. And the number got up to like 14 or 15. Wow. And of course, he fortunately had some caretakers and people to help him with all that, but that might have been so Benicio would go back and forth, and he still does. He still owns that. His father's deceased. He still owns that property, but his father had instilled. His father, who served in the military, by the way, the United States military, and Benicio's uncle, who was a policeman, a chief of police, and is a patriot. Benicio's a patriot. And his father was a dog lover, and Benicio was a dog lover, and I'm a Benicio lover in the most masculine way possible. He's as a great friend.
Yeah, he's a absolutely bona fide actor's actor. A lot of great stuff there. The fact that you two are such good friends doesn't surprise me in the least. And I know a lot of people aren't into dogs, aren't into pets, but for those that are, it's an incredible. My house is filled with all kinds of critters, and that connection. To me, that's a gift from God. Once you get that kind of connection, and as I said, they give you more than you give them when it comes to that. Okay, we're coming down to the close here a little bit. You had a clip that Amanda told me that you sent, not very long. So maybe we can get that to play, and then
forgot what I sent.
I forgot. I didn't get a chance to see it either. So if we don't, it's not a big deal. I'm obviously going to beg you for another one of these. We get together maybe towards the end of the year and talk again, because this has been an absolute treat for me to have a chat with you and actually kind of close up the friendship to the point that we've actually got a chance to meet. And I look forward to meeting you in person, and I will make the trip.
Same here.
One
Thank
thing I want to tell the audience, please go on YouTube, look up Pete Koch, and look up the K Jewelers ad where he's Santa Claus. Okay. Now, you look at the genuine smirk on his face. I know, and I'm going to say this in the most masculine way possible. Okay. But, okay, here I am. I have an alcoholic drink in my hand. It's late at night. You know, you're being bombarded with, we're not talking about the birth of Jesus Christ. We are talking about our presence. But I love the Santa Claus story. When properly told, it fits. And here's this former football player, actor I've seen in a few things, and he's Santa Claus, and he comes home and he has a gift for Mrs. Claus, and they're, you know, he's getting into bed and gives her a kiss. It's the sweetest kiss. I mean, if you tell me you two are fighting on the set and we're, you know, ready to pull each other's hair out, I don't care, because it's 30 seconds of magical. I still pull that commercial up on YouTube just because it's such a sweet little commercial.
Well, if you bought it, Cobra, that's all that matters. So thank you. I'm proud of that commercial. We worked very hard on that.
It's a very, very good one. And of course, the other one when you're sitting in the truck, I think it's a GMC truck, and the window comes down, and the kids get to see you, and they know you're Santa Claus, and the window kind of goes back up. Another one, but doesn't have the same sweetness factor. For some reason, that connected, you know.
Yes, I'm very proud of that commercial. That commercial was directed by an Academy Award winning special effects. This is the man. So there's sometimes crossover within creative side of filmmaking. Sure. And if you can think back to the original, what was it? James Cameron. He made a series of animated films, just blanking on it the name of it right now, about this whole, the people are blue, and there's
right.
This whole,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I just can't think of the name. Only made the $2 billion.
I was going to say, it was Bigelow's film, The Hurt Locker, that he was up against for the Academy Award.
Right. So this very, very incredibly creative visual effect, leading edge visual effects film. So there's a visual effects producer or director. Forgive me if I'm not getting the verbiage exactly right. Somebody in Hollywood's going to go, "Hey, you got," but it's a big job, and this guy is the best in business. And sometimes guys that attain a level like that, he won the Oscar for best visual effects as Avatar.
Avatar, there it is. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, so it was the first. I think he did the visual effects in the first 3 Avatars, and he's an Oscar winner. And so what those guys can leverage that into.
They get the tap on the shoulder or the call on the phone.
Yeah. And so when in this this K Jewelers commercial, I'm in a winter wonderland in the North Pole, and it looks absolutely beautiful. When in reality is that I was on a soundstage, a massive soundstage on the Universal lot in the middle of the San Fernando Valley, and it was 106 degrees outside, and the walls were green. And then you see the commercial, and it's the North Pole, and that
has to be absolutely incredibly experienced to go through something like that and see all those things.
Yeah, I've got some. I should release them sometime. I took a bunch of they're very careful, about picture taking on this stuff, because that commercial cost millions of dollars, and they're very protective of that. And my agreement doesn't mean it couldn't come back, but my agreement for the usage, my likeness of that commercial has run out. Doesn't mean it couldn't come back. The commercial was so popular, I was disappointed it didn't get a longer
run. Sure.
But I think it made a mark. And so this is where this is the collaboration, right? So
Right.
this is what the people will always reflexively revert to talking about quarterbacks when it comes to the NFL, and because it's whatever your level of understanding of the game is, we can all appreciate what Tom Brady did for a living and did for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And he did it in such a way that he made it look a little bit easier and a little bit better than other guys. And Patrick Mahomes, the same thing.
Sure.
And this is, but that collaborative effort, believe you me, Tom Brady never would have been as great as he was without Bill Belichick as coach, and Patrick Mahomes never would have had the career and the 3 Super Bowl rings he has without Andy Reid, his head coach. And actors can never be the best that they can be without great directors. And that was the great good fortune I had when I shot that K Jewelers commercial.
It shows. It really does. And to me, again, I told you I have a very limited Hollywood experience. I've been around some incredible people out there. A lot of the people that were in the behind the scenes that did the aerial stunt work, aerial display work on that, tremendous people. And the safety, and you can't have things go wrong. But the joy of it was there. But when you look at something like a commercial like that, and it's such a small vignette, the time you've got to deliver, and quite honestly, you have to hit with a really good hit. You got to hit that play, because if you don't, that money, you're not getting that money back. That is designed to get you to go out and purchase something. Okay,
not to just you're stating the point, and making me feel really good, but just to even highlight the reality and the correctness of to your point is there was this massive sound stage, this massive set, just 2 actors in the commercial, and it's 90% me, really. And
right. Sure.
And millions of dollars and a crew of 50, 60. And in one little corner over here is 8 people sitting around, like a 32-inch monitor TV screen. And they're like this, and they're watching everything, like scrutinizing. Can you run that back? They're on a microphone.
Sure.
The director's like 25 feet away. And those were all the CEO, CFO, COO of K Jewelers, which is, I learned because they said, somebody said to me, they want to talk to you. You want to go over and say hi to these nice people? They hired you, and it's their commercial. It's their money. And they were all very charming people. But the company's based in Ohio, I learned. And it was the most money they had ever spent in the very, very long history of the company. And I hope they feel like they got their money's worth. But it was quite.
I can't imagine how they didn't. Great commercial. Like I said, hopefully everyone that sees the show will go do that.
Yeah,
well,
Google.
Pete, we're at the end of our time together on this one. I can't wait to do it again with you. I hope you'll had a good enough time that we can get together and do it again.
You got a Cobra? Yeah, my pleasure.
I absolutely am just so happy that we got a chance to chat, because everything that we talked about, I kind of surmised. I do want to get one last word in, though, to something I know is really important to you. It's something that's driving me absolutely batty. And you're a dedicated LA member of the community out there. You guys went through a devastating fire. I know that you and many other people are so frustrated that things haven't turned, that they haven't made the move. And I want to throw at the end of this all the support in the world to folks like you that are trying to get those communities back on their feet, get them rebuilt. We've had our tragedies in Hawaii and North Carolina and all these other places.
Yeah.
But this one, it was so horrible. Loss of life, loss of property. And I saw the clip that you just recently put out, walking around talking about it, that, you are a Los Angeles person and you want this to come back, and you're there. And I think most people in Los Angeles couldn't find a better friend and a better supporter on their side than you. So I wish that takes a good turn and we get over the top on it.
Yeah, it was personal to me because I knew people involved, including my eye doctor, a brilliant man who worked his entire life so that he could have actually a small, relatively small, humble house in the hills in the Pacific Palisades. We're the same age, and he lost his house. He's got kids, young kids, kids still
Right.
in high school. He lost it all, and that's just one little example. And it was really largely preventable. And now to see the other foot, sort of the other shoe fall, is the finger pointing, the lawsuits. Nobody's really taking responsibility.
And we're not getting stuff done. We're not getting it done. We're not
No,
moving the ball.
and I drive. The neighborhood is just 3 miles away. I drive through there. One of the number of trails that I hike myself, and I hike with clients in the Santa Monica Mountains. Some are still closed for whatever reason, due to the damage. Again, most of the damage was done in the Santa Monica Mountains, which is a very, very long, low mountain range. But give you an idea, to summit most of these things you're talking about 700 to 1,000 feet, but they're great hikes. They're beautiful hikes, and to connect with nature. And so one of my regular trails is closed. There's many dozens of trails, but another very popular trail is open. So I'm hiking in that terrain that was burned away. And it's actually, the fun part is to see an area that was completely burned out, to see in some ways the trail is actually better now. This was a park that didn't have any houses in it.
Right.
It was right. So but the trail actually, which had a lot of overgrowth, it all burned away, and it actually, right now, it's better than it was before. It's easier to hike, and you get a better view, which is somehow like the silver lining and God's like kind of blessing of like,
don't give up hope.
Sometimes fires actually do serve a ecological function, but people's houses burning down because there's no water in the reservoir serves no ecological function.
Absolutely.
That's the part that irritates me, and the lack of leadership and responsibility there. And for those of us who don't know, and I am not at all comparing NFL to the military, but I think it's fair to acknowledge that we both come from a place and a background of on a professional level of learning about self, because nobody gets there and lasts without understanding the personal accountability, delayed gratification, listening to orders, being able to receive orders and be able to execute a plan, to be able to get on the same page with other people.
You want to do the mission because the mission is your life. I mean, that's what it becomes. And we're both on that same path, parallel courses, and I'm sure we're kind of intersecting these days, as we get into our older years, but not going quietly and not going to give up on things around us when you see it. So, Pete, to the greatest audience on the planet, you have had a real treat with Mr. Pete Koch tonight. I can't thank you enough for taking valuable time to talk. I look forward to talking to you more and getting together in the not too distant future, I hope. And I always close my shows in the old days with God's peace that surpasses all knowledge and understanding. And I think if it resonates with anybody, it probably resonates with you better than most. Thank you very much, Pete.
Thank you for that, Cobra. God bless you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you for yours. And give Sophie a big hug for me.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.